Hello and welcome to another video from
Absolute Game of Nerd!
All right, we are here. As you can see, it's not JP this today. It is Joshua, aka Spro from Spros Comics. We have a little special episode where we're going to review the Penguin. So, Joshua, just real quick, how you doing? Thanks for coming on.
I'm doing swell, man. How are you?
Solid. So yeah, let's we don't need to waste much time here, but let's jump in. I kind of want to start and I should warn anyone, like, we're going all in on this. So like if you haven't seen the Penguin, yeah, spoilers. We're hit pause and go watch and then come back here. So we're going to talk about it all. But I do want to talk first off. I like to start kind of high level. Actually, even before that, I know I've heard you talk about it, but for those that may not watch, I'm curious to know, or I want you to share real quick your thoughts first on the Matt Reeves Batman film with Robert Pattinson, where we first get the Penguin in.
Oh, man. Well, as you can see right here over my shoulder is my Batman shrine. We got the official movie poster, double-sided. We got the McFarlane toys, Bruce, Catwoman, Bruce in suit. That's a Japanese toy. And then we got the Bruce Wayne Funko Pop. And then this, hold on, let me show this too. This here is a Batman 227, as everybody knows. This to me, like, I feel like Robert Pattinson embodies this Batman right here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
I don't know. Something about it is just like, I mean, he even like kind of has this look in the movie plenty of times where he's just like kind of like his posture is facing downwards. So I love this cover because Neil Adams, incredible artwork. Can't afford Tech 31, so we got this one. And then the added fact that this looks like Pattinson, I love it.
When you say that, it reminds me of the scene, kind of the first scene we get with Batman where they're in the subway station.
Yeah.
And those guys are like beating up that like Asian guy. And then all of a sudden out of like the dark hall, he comes walking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that. I mean, the first, what is it, like 5-10 minutes of that movie, like his intro monologue. I mean, I would put it up there with like one of the best monologues in all of cinema. I watch that movie, I kid you not, maybe like once a month.
Oh, really?
I find it just incredible. Like, I truly think it's just one of the best films of all time.
Like just not in comic book, just in general.
Yeah.
So you hold it in higher esteem than the Nolan trilogy.
Yeah. So my IRL friends, they like to dog on me a little bit because I'm actually not the biggest fan of the Nolan trilogy. I actually do not like Christian Bale as Batman. I find him incredibly annoying. I wasn't the biggest fan of Tom Hardy as Bane. Obviously, Heath Ledger's Joker, incredible. Like, I mean, tough to beat. So, Dark Knight, for sure, an incredible film. But, yeah, Batman Begins, pretty boring to me. I know that's kind of controversial. I think people, like, really like that one out of the three. I mean, yeah.
I love that one especially, too, because I love seeing him train to be Batman. Like, the scenes with the League of Shadows, I think, are incredible.
Yeah. The action sequences in that are the choreography is really, really good. But yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan, even though I grew up on those movies. Heath Ledger, that performance, all-time great right there. One of the best movies for sure. But yeah, the Batman, it's not even like really a comparison for me.
All right. Well, so that's good to know. So then coming into the Penguin, you had high hopes and high expectations.
Yeah, for sure. I actually saw a meme today that said, it was like some dude holding up like a sign at a sports event, but somebody had like photoshopped it and said, "Matt Reeves, we had high expectations, and yet you somehow exceeded them."
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I wanted to start high level, and I would agree exactly with that sentiment in the sense, and I should say too, like when we think about comic book movies, and MCU movies, shows, whatever it is, I have kind of a different standard or bar, I'd say, that I would if I was judging a just regular movie. For example, like in like the MCU movies, like I don't need like Daniel Day-Lewis lighting the screen on fire, like
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? Like I don't need like I just need like the characters that I love represented well and a good fun storyline.
Yeah.
And I'm usually pretty good there with when it comes to comic book movies. The Penguin as a show, I would say you could take that out of there and just say in general, it is an objectively excellent show.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think I saw today that that last episode has a 9.7 out of 10 on IMDb,
Oh, really?
which is putting it up there with some of the best like television episodes of all time, competing with the likes of Breaking Bad. I think Attack on Titan has some episodes up there. Yeah, just some of like the greatest shows that have been around forever, and it's already like cementing itself as like competing with those top spots.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, I was sitting there kind of like, okay, like I wonder if the finale delivers, and I thought it was fantastic last night when I sat down and watched it.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, I think to just to best describe from beginning to end, I have to quote my co-host on the podcast, Mr. Longbox. He doesn't talk about this often, so I'm going to give him a little bit of praise here. He has his doctorate. He's a writer.
Oh,
He's a
he is. I didn't know
professor.
that.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent person, and he's way smarter than he likes to let on, and way more accomplished than he likes to let on. But he said last night that just praising like the storytelling, he said it's very tight from beginning to end. There's not many kind of um, uh, ends that they didn't finish or like left open ended. Like everything from beginning to end, they told the story and they all had a satisfying ending. And I completely agreed with him.
Yeah, no, and no, I would agree with that. Like they and it does it's a nice kind of like first off too, I also just love that it, I don't think we've ever seen this where the Batman movie ended. This picks up next day and
Yeah,
it spans its time, and then or theoretically, Batman 2 is going to pick, and this absolutely you can roll right into Batman 2. Again, I think Penguin will probably be. It sounds like he's going to be a kind of another sub tier villain like he was in the first one.
yeah,
I saw today that he's going to be in 5 or 6 scenes. So yeah, no, I agree. It definitely everything it started, it definitely tied in nicely. And the other thing too, I think that's really cool with this, and I'm curious your opinion, is that when you think of these, every time you kind of hear of, oh, they want to do a villain movie or a villain show, and you think, how could they have the villain but not the protagonist, right? So in this case, how do you have a Penguin show?
I think I lost you. Am I frozen or are you frozen? One of us is paused.
All right, I think I froze there. Sorry, you there?
Okay, there you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was saying is like, how do you have a Penguin show but not have Batman? And especially a show that spanned 8 episodes, you're thinking like, how could they not have Batman? The show, and then also with that, one of my like biggest complaints with like MCU shows is that the stakes are nothing and there's nothing that actually happens that's significant or eventful. I think this show did a good job of making the stakes always seem high and significant. But two, I don't think the conflicts that arose within the show would necessitate Batman being involved, right? Like the bad guys were fighting other bad guys, and it was more just like internal conflicts between gangs and things like that. Like, sure, Batman could get involved, but like there was nothing there that I was like, I think Batman should be here. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Even with like the explosion in the second to last episode when Sophia blew up Penguin's drug lab for Bliss, when that happened and they like panned out and they showed like that whole block just like collapsing, my first thought was like, okay, does Batman need to be here? And so I started thinking about it, and I decided like no, he doesn't, because that's not the type of things like Batman like comes in for.
Yeah, he's. I mean, at that had he been there prior to the bomber, but like, yeah, for like you talking about like for search and rescue, that's not a Batman thing.
Yeah, yeah, he wouldn't need to be there. Yeah, like you said, it's at that point it's just like search and rescue, like even just like the local police, GCPD or whoever, they're not gonna like they're not gonna like immediately start an investigation. Like they're getting bodies out of there and getting people to safety. And yeah, I and then um to add on to that, once that whole block is like settled and then they start the investigation, then I can see where that's a situation where like Gordon calls Batman and says like,
Mhm.
"Hey, like there's something fishy about this. I need you to come check this out." Similar to what he does in the movie with like the
Yeah,
murder of the mayor, and so he's like, "Hey, something weird is going on. We don't quite have a pulse on it. Like we need you to come check it out." But yeah, he's not a first responder type. So like a lot of the big things that happen are like first responder like situations, and then like you said, everything else is internal conflict with the mob families.
yeah. All right, so let's start. Tell me what were some of your kind of across the 8 episodes. What were some of your favorite like highlights of the show?
Ooh, I so there's a clip of Colin Farrell before the show coming out where he says, um, yeah, you know, the first episode, like he's kind of a likable guy, and then in the second episode, he's like a little less likable, but still likable, and then he says, but by the time you get to the end of the eighth episode, I don't think you're gonna have a reason to like him at all. And I mean that's 100% true. And I watched the Batman most recently on Halloween because
It's a
um,
Halloween movie.
it's a Halloween movie, but also Halloween fell on Thursday this year.
Hmm.
And in the when he starts off his monologue, he says, um, "It's Thursday, October 31st." So it
Oh,
was like the actual Batman day. So I was like, I gotta watch it. Um, but there's like Penguin is like funny in that movie. Like
yeah,
he's a side character for sure, and you're just kind of like getting familiar with him. But like I feel like most of the things he says in that movie are pretty funny.
yeah. No,
And so
I'd agree
then
with that.
yeah, so then you get to the show, and like first episode you're kind of getting like reintroduced to him, but then as it goes on, he just like devolves into this like disgusting, pitiful, like evil, corrupt villain. So I really like generally like I just enjoyed kind of thinking about how funny he is in the Batman, and then just watching him completely devolve into like a worthless bottom of the barrel scum.
Yeah,
Um, so that arc for sure. I think the whole Sophia Falcone thing, that like I just didn't see that coming. Like I didn't. Most of the time, I keep up with like leaks and stuff. Like I'm not afraid or like anti-leak going into a movie or something. Like it kind of like enhances like the viewing experience for me. Um, but I didn't hear or come across any leaks for Penguin, and so the whole Sophia Falcone storyline was just like it was really well done, and I think a little bit of a risk because I feel like her story arc is probably like half the show. I
hmm
mean, she has
yeah.
like
I
a
mean,
whole
you could say the show could have been called The Penguin and Sophia. Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, which is a huge risk, um, just because you're already gonna have trouble getting people to buy into watching a show about a villain, especially coming off the heels of Joker 1 and 2, where like Joker 2 kind of like ruined that
that
um
vibe. Yeah,
those movies, and people like really hated it. And so it was like there's like this sucks, the writing sucks, there was no Batman, like screw villain stuff. So then you get into Penguin, it's like, okay, are people gonna like buy into this? It's gonna be hard. And then they added another like pseudo villain. I feel like she might become like an anti-hero Catwoman type in the future. But yeah, big risk, and I think it paid off really really well.
yeah. No, that's a great point in the sense that like only right before the show premiered, I hear that like, and I honestly I'd never heard of the actress until the Penguin. And so like I heard the name and they're like she's gonna be playing Sophia Falcone. I was like, okay, makes sense that they'll have some member of the Falcone family involved. Um, but then I had no idea that they were going
Mm.
to really develop that character. And to think, I mean, episode 4 is a complete Sophia. episode telling kind
Yeah.
of her origin, and that episode is phenomenal,
Yeah, it's so
and
good.
it's so good. Um, so no, I agree 100% with that take, and I also really enjoyed the character of Victor. Like, it really
Yeah.
humanized the Penguin, and and so obviously this is a spoiler for those that haven't watched. When he kills him at the end of episode 8 in the finale, a I didn't expect that. Like, that was not something I expected. But then after, or as it was happening, it made complete sense, in the sense too, A, with what you were talking about, in the sense that when you watch it, you're like, especially when you see then Salvatore Moroni and then Sophia, you're like, oh, the Penguin is the good guy of this story, and you're like, oh, I like this guy. You start to empathize with him, and then when he finally kind of his arc kind of takes its full swing, and he chokes Victor, you're reminded, like, holy shit, no, this guy is an absolute monster. I mean, even prior to that, when you think about, like, when Victor's like trying to talk him up, and he's like, you gave these people dignity, you saved this neighborhood, and it's like, he saved the neighborhood by getting them all addicted to this new drug. Like, that's
Yeah.
that's not necessarily like the most heroic thing. But then outside of that, right, him choking Victor out after, like, they had had this moment, you're just like, oh shit, like, I forgot, like, this is a bad dude.
Yeah, what what I really appreciate about the show in general, and this is something that the Joker one in or Joker 2 failed to do, and was actually like intentionally not trying to not do this. And then something that all the Sony movies like just won't do is making villain movies about the villains. Like
Mhm.
Venom is an anti-hero in those, or so, yeah, Venom is an anti-hero in the Sony movies. Honestly, Venom's probably more of a hero in those three movies than an anti-hero. Like, he's not evil in any sort of way. Morbius, definitely like an anti-hero. What else? Madam Web, she's kind of somewhere between. I don't know. That movie is so bad. I don't even really know what
I'm
she
just impressed you watched all of them. I have not even, like, bothered to watch
is.
any of them.
You
So
gotta watch him to hate, man. You gotta watch him
yeah,
to hate.
I
And
do
then
intend. I would say, the one I do intend to watch Joker too, even though it's been. And I was fully gonna go see it in the theater, but then after hearing things, I was like, okay, I'll just wait till it comes out for free.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, Craven coming out, and like he's probably gonna be another anti-hero. And so you have these movies about like villains. So like we'll stick with the Sony one real quick. Those are all Spider-Man villains. Like some Sinister Six, some not, but they're all Spider-Man villains. And they want to like team them up to go up against Spider-Man in some point in the future.
Mhm.
But it's like how like that's not going to make sense because they've presented them as like essentially heroes this entire time. So it's like when we finally see whatever version of Spider-Man they're going to have fight the Sony villains, it's just not going to land because they're going to be like, wait, I thought those guys were heroes. Like those guys have been doing good this entire time. Like I'm confused. And so it's like they were scared to lean into the fact that like those are actual villains. And then with like Joker 2, you just have like I'm forgetting the writer director Todd Phillips, where he's like the he's just trying to tell this like really pretentious story, and like that Joker is whoever like we want to like put up there, and the character Arthur Fleck is not actually like the villain. He's actually like a victim of society and of culture, and you're just like, dude, that's not like the Joker. Like this is stupid. This is horrible. But then you get to the Penguin, and it's like this dude is wicked, like through and through. And so the like to me, like the best part about the Penguin is you get to the last episode and you see how evil and corrupt and how wicked this dude is, and then it ends with the bat signal.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's hope for the viewer, because like innately I think generally like everybody wants to see justice happen in the world. People want to see wrongs be made right. And so like when we watch in this fictitious world, this guy who shouldn't be getting out of these situations, but he's like so slippery and slimy, and he like gets out of them every single time. So we just see like this really evil guy just somehow keep winning, and he's just like mowing people down on his way out. You're like, dude, justice needs to be served. Like, we need to see this guy lose. And so showing us the bat signal at the end, like, to me, that was my favorite part of the whole show. Is like,
Oh, really?
yeah, just like, yeah, like, because it's like it was such a satisfying ending, because it's like all of like, Colin Farrell and his like incredible portrayal, and like how, like, I mean, you could barely tell that was Colin Farrell. Like, he was just
Hmm.
like, that the makeup was incredible, his accent, like his acting, like everything was so good. And it's such a good payoff for all of the good writing that came before, and all of the good acting, because the writing and the acting and just the general storytelling had to convince us that these people were evil. But you can't just leave those stories as like, these people are evil, because then you get to the end of it and you're not going to be satisfied. You're going to be like, what? Like, I want to see evil get its teeth knocked in. Like, I don't want to just like watch evil win in the city. And so I just feel like having the bat signal at the end was just like, it was so satisfying, because all of the excellent groundwork that was laid before, and all of the storytelling, and all of the convincing that like this dude is a villain, is paid off by like, yeah, coming soon, he's going to get the brakes beaten off of him.
Yeah, no, I that's a great point, for sure. Like that'll be a definitely a satisfying moment for us to see.
Oh yeah, we're
Um,
gonna. I guarantee, man. When we're in the theaters watching Batman 2 or Batman 3, like whenever it is, whenever they fight and Batman's just giving it to him, people are gonna be standing, cheering, clapping, and that's just a testament to how good the writing is, how good the acting is, how good that story is. That they convince us, like, yeah, this dude's a villain. Like, there's no excusing what he's done. This dude's a villain, and justice is gonna come soon.
yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Speaking of leading into Batman 2, we had kind of I can think of two, and I'm curious to know if you caught anything else. So we have one kind of teaser. It was Sophia sitting in back in the asylum essentially,
Yeah.
and she gets a letter from Catwoman. I'm curious thoughts there, and then any thoughts on what it said. I mean, you already said you think it maybe is to lean her towards an anti-hero route, so I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a story of redemption for Sophia. I don't think she likes becoming what she had to become. But I think she was just playing the hands that she was dealt. Especially like in episode 4, we learn like how truly innocent she was
Hmm.
before her dad put her into Arkham. Um, and so she's really coming out on this like vengeance tour, and like that vengeance tour, like that vengeance for her is like doubled in like its emotional impact, because her dad's dead, so she can't take that vengeance out on him. Like, whether it be, you know, going to the iceberg lounge and like yelling at him, or like trying to kill him or whatever, like the job is done. Riddler stole that from her. And so I think in this whole show, like, she's trying to take it out on somebody, which ends up being Penguin, but it's not satisfying enough for
Hmm.
her. And that's why, when with the twist, when we thought Penguin was going to kill her, right before she thinks she's about to die, you can see like she's finally at peace, because she's like escaping like all of that burden and trauma she's been carrying for years. But, turns out when he said, "You're going to hell," like,
It's actually her real hell. I mean
yeah,
that ending is worse for her than death.
yeah. And so I think Selena, Kyle, Catwoman, I think it's gonna be like a real place of like solace for her, because while Catwoman is like, she's just kind of like more like selfish, like, I'm just gonna do things that's gonna help me proceed, but she's not doing it at the expense of like Penguin's selfish, but Penguin's doing it at like, I'm gonna mow everybody down in front of me and make sure like I'm the only one at the top. Catwoman's obviously a lot more like sneaky and not as like evil about it. So I think Sophia's gonna find like a lot of solace in her, in the fact that like she's also a victim of the same person, Carmine, and she's just gonna find another family member that's like figured it out, and like how to process that family trauma, and how to move on. And so yeah, I'm really interested to see how that relationship goes. But I do think that like Catwoman will kind of be like a little bit of saving faith for her. Like, yeah, it'll fix everything that's like wrong, and like kind of set Sophia on a straighter path, not quite straight, but
Yeah, no, and then with that, the second thing, so I actually didn't notice it while watching. I saw it, someone else showed, and I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. Did you notice though when he was in City Hall and he was talking to the councilman, that in that kind of courtroom, in like each like bay between the pillars, there was like some kind of like curtain hanging, and they had like a design on it. But if you look from afar, the design is very emblematic of an owl. Did you notice that at all?
no, I didn't.
Yeah, I'll have to. I saw it on social media after. I was like, oh, I got to go back and rewatch that now. Obviously, that would be alluding to the Court of Owls from the New 52 storyline. And that's what everyone's prognosticated, that they're definitely going to be involved within this 3-movie picture. So that, I thought that was a cool little Easter egg there for it.
Yeah, I love that story. I mean, it's one of the better Batman stories in recent time. It's so good, and I mean, if it's perfect in this world, like
Hmm.
that story is like, because it's so grounded and it's so tied to Bruce's name and his history and the history of Gotham, and it's like all about corruption, and that's exactly like what the first movie is about. Is like,
Yep.
you know, the government and our local protectors, who we thought were our local protectors, and our local politicians, who, they're the ones who are supposed to execute justice. That's really, this whole thing is like, they're actually not doing that.
Hmm.
And I I'm hoping that that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Like, the the corruption runs deeper than that. And I think that they also kind of hinted it, like with his dad, Thomas Wayne's, like a little bit like of a shady past.
Hmm.
Even though like his dad, at least from like what Alfred said, like his dad tried to like turn it around like in the last minute, and that's essentially like what led to the parents getting killed. But yeah, I still think that that's like alluding a little bit to like, yeah, his family's not squeaky clean. So yeah, I've been telling people for 2 to 3 years now, like, you guys gotta pick up Batman 6 9.8. Like, there's also a ratio variant like that, because once that story hits, it's such a good story, and if they do that story justice on screen, like, people are gonna love it, and people are just gonna, FOMO for that Batman issue number 6.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Um, I
So
personally have not read it, but I've heard it's excellent from a number of people.
yeah, you can get like the if you're not like subscribed to any of like the digital stuff, if you go to like Amazon or Target, they have like DC's new like collected stories or something like that. They're like small square trade paperbacks.
Hmm.
And they just like it costs only $10, and they just put like their best stories in there.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and they put Court of Owls in there.
Oh no, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Did you notice anything else then beyond those two things that would be kind of alluding to the next film that I might have missed?
What I've seen people say on social media, I'm not like a well-read Batman guy. I've read pretty much like his most popular stuff. But something that people are talking about in that same scene is there's some story arcs where Penguin becomes mayor. Um,
Oh.
and so he was sitting in Bella Royale's seat,
Hmm.
and the show made a point to show us that she's still mayor elect and not yet mayor. And when he's walking out of like the courtroom and he goes into the foyer and he looks up the stairs and he sees her there, um, he sees Bella Real standing there, and then behind her, it's a sign that says "Office of the Mayor" or something like that. And so people online were saying like, was he looking at Bella Real or was he looking at the sign?
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Okay.
and so there's one YouTuber, heavy spoilers. He was saying like that's pretty much the Penguin's best next step in as far as like protecting himself from his like the other mob families and people under him from taking him out and killing him, is for him to take on a political role, because that'll essentially act as like the biggest pr- protection for his life.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I can see you see that tying well too with the storylines moving forward that we that we've discussed.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
people were tying that into that's also why he killed Vic. It's because the councilman tells him something along the lines of like you got to make sure you look clean or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And so Vic, I mean, Vic was like pretty much like the audience, like in the show. Like he saw everything that we did, so he knows like all the evil, all the corruption. And so if worst came to worst, Vic could have outed everything that Penguin had done. So that's potentially like a motive as to why Penguin killed him.
Oh,
Which
interesting.
I think that's a pretty interesting theory. I think
Yeah, that's a really interesting theory. Um,
not
oh,
mine. I
that's
stole that from the internet, but
no, I'll have to dive into that. That's very, very interesting. Speaking of, as we kind of close it down here, but speaking of weaknesses, I thought that ending with his mom, I mean, that is some serious Oedipus Rex, and I mean, just I did not expect that at the end. That whole how it wrapped. I was like, wow.
yeah, I think my wife said it was emotionally incestuous,
Yeah,
and I was like, "Yep, that is, yep, that's the way to explain it."
yeah,
It's and yeah, I mean, just like Colin Farrell said, he said by the time you get to the end of episode 8, like you're not gonna like this guy, and killing Vic is one thing, but that is a totally different thing, and
yeah.
you're
I mean,
just like,
especially when his mom and I can't remember which episode it is. Literally is pleading with him. If I get to that point where I'm just in this vegetative state, you have to promise me you will kill me.
yeah,
And here he is doing the opposite.
yeah, he's the most selfish person ever.
Hmm.
Like he's keeping her alive for himself because he's probably holding out on the hope that maybe one day she's gonna break out of that and then she'll tell him like I'm proud of you. Even like the fact that he wouldn't lie to like keep her pinky from getting cut off, and yeah, he's just like an incredibly selfish dude. Like, and I mean, the ending is just like both the scene with Vic and the scene with his mom, like everything about that, it was him focused and him thinking like, how do I progress myself
Yeah.
higher in this world?
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
it's sick. It's sick and deranged, man. And yeah, I I agree with Colin, man. There's no way you can like him. Like he's just a completely unlikable character. And if you do like him, you're a weird person.
Yeah.
You can like Colin Farrell and Colin Farrell's portrayal, but yeah,
Yeah.
not the
Not the
actual character.
character. Not
What
the
was your
character.
favorite moment in the show?
If I had to pick one moment, I would probably say I think episode 3 in general was my favorite, and just seeing the whole kind of turn of Vic being like, "I don't know what I'm doing, but this is probably gonna lead to a bad path. I gotta get out of here," and then, like, setting it up with his, like, girlfriend to kinda, bounce out of there, and then, he's at the club, and he's gonna, like, dip out, and then he sees her at the bus station, and then coming back, and then, like, I was very curious at that point, like, where is this? What's gonna happen? And then when he ran the car through those guys, I was like, "Oh, damn!" Like that was my favorite moment of the entire series.
Yeah, he's here to play. Is pretty
Yeah,
much what he was saying.
that's like when he became a man, and like because I think too, doesn't the next episode open up and like when Penguin or is it at the end of that when Penguin like gets in the car, doesn't he say like that was awesome or something like
Yeah,
that?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that also too, like in that moment, I didn't know where, especially when Penguin was like, "Just go," and he's like, "What about Sophia?" And he's like, "Fuck her, go." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay," and I was like, "Okay, I have no idea how this show is gonna go," and it really took off, and I really, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think I had that same reaction in that moment too. When they took off and he just said, "Screw it," like we got to get out of here. I was like, "Oh, I really have no clue." I was thinking he would have to like maintain his relationship with Sophia a little bit longer,
Yeah,
but that unraveled a lot sooner than I thought. So I was like, "Oh, I have no clue what's gonna happen next."
yeah. I mean, they really created him as a character that can really just think on his feet. Like, I mean, the plan is rapidly changing and evolving at every second, and he's the only one that's able to stay on top of that.
Yeah. Do you think the show there's like rumors that there could be a season 2? Would you want a season 2 if it was like after the Batman 2, or do you think like, nah, give us another show about another side character in the universe?
Yeah, so actually I did this is where I actually wanted to get to go cuz so there Matt Reeves came out and said that like this is the direction he wants to go with these types of things of in the sense of doing other character kind of shows like this. So I think that's fantastic. I don't know if there's much more you could explore. I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens in Batman 2. I feel like now that Penguin is essentially like the primo crime boss in Gotham, I feel like there's not another way, especially, I guess we'll see it happens in Batman 2, but I don't know if there's another way to do another season unless it somehow involves Batman. Like, I feel like at
Yeah,
this point, he's now the apex predator and he can't get away with some of the things he does because Batman's going to be always on his, looking out for him. So I think
yeah.
a season 2, if they did it, like I don't see how you do it without involving the Batman,
Mm.
kind of, based on where things go. That being said, I would love to see additional shows if they're written this well, like to kind of give us backstories on other characters. I'm all in. I know that, and the rumor is that it'll be the Joker between between the second and third movie. Which I mean, again, the Joker, in my opinion, is probably the greatest comic book villain ever. So I'm always going to be in on anything that's Joker related,
Sure.
especially if it's obviously I don't want to see a flop Joker movie, but if it's going to be like this, I'm all in. I did hear though that James Gunn has been kind of quashing a lot of the Matt Reeves projects, which I understand from a perspective of he's trying to build his own DC universe and he doesn't want there to be confusion or loyalty towards one over his. There are definitely reasons from a business perspective of why he would be doing that. As someone I'm never going to get superhero fatigue as the term that they throw around here. As long as
I
they're
say the
making
same thing.
as long as they're making quality products, I'm always going to be in.
Yeah.
Um, and so if you tell me that there's going to be a Matt Reeves DC universe that's really good and a James Gunn DC universe that's really good, I just say, hey, that's just more fun stuff that I get to watch. So I hope that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I got a couple things to say, so I'm gonna like track back on what you were saying. Um, so yeah, I totally agree. You make a good point. I hadn't thought about that. That like if they do a season 2, it's gonna have to have Batman on there. Um, that is also something else that I heard people say about like the bat signal. So like my conclusion is what I had said earlier, that like justice is coming, hope is on the horizon. But something else that like I saw other people saying, and I think both of these conclusions on what the bat signal means can exist at the same time. But other people were saying that aside from hope, it's also showing the audience that now Batman, like, this is all on Batman's map now.
Yeah,
So that's like
Penguin's
exactly
on
what
his
they were saying.
radar.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like if you look at the Batman 1, he's going after Carmine. He knows he's got to deal with the Riddler. The Penguin kind of just pops in here and there, but like Batman doesn't really have any, respect, maybe the right word for it, like for the Penguin, right?
yeah, and
He's
I
just
think he even says that in the movie too, where he's just like, and he's just some like I know who he is. He's just some
oh yeah,
crime
like a low
boss.
level enforcer or something is the term he
Yeah,
may use.
yeah. So I think if because Matt Reeves has said that the Penguin 2 leads directly into the Batman. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have like a cool opening montage like they did with in the first movie, but then like if the first scene that like we actually pick up on is like Gordon, he turned on the lights for the bat signal, and then Batman gets there and Gordon's like, okay, like I need to catch you up to speed on Penguin.
Yeah.
And for a majority of like the audience who's realistically probably not watching Penguin, it's going to be like a quick like 2-3 minute like telling of like the entire show that he gives Batman, and then yeah, at that point it's gonna be like, okay, Penguin's on Batman's map now, it's a threat. It's gonna make a ton of sense for us who watched it, and then for people who just saw the first movie and come to the second movie without seeing the show, it's gonna fill in the gaps. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And that's the internet's theory alongside you there.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I agree. I feel like I can never get superhero fatigue. Um, I don't know. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. And there's so many stories to be told. Like
Mm-hmm.
even bad ones. Like as much as I hate Joker too, like they're still like fun in the sense that like you can watch them, hate them, critique them. Like it doesn't burn me out at all.
No, it gives us something to talk about, gives us something to then think about, think of something to hope for, what comes next. And yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm always, always in kind of thing.
Yeah, and then as far as like James Gunn, I think he at least squashed the rumor that there is a Joker show. But I said last night or this morning on our podcast that like I kind of believe him, but I also kind of don't. Like I feel like I don't know. Like although he is like the one who is running and operating DC movie and TV studios, I feel like I don't know, this Matt Reeves universe is just so successful and is doing
Mm-hmm.
so well that it's like if that's what people want at the end of the day, like Warner Brothers just has to start like they're just gonna start greenlighting stuff because they've failed DC
Yeah, they need
for a
wins.
long time. So if people out there are like, hey, like yeah, I will watch like I'm tired of Joker, but in this universe, like I'll watch it. And if the big studio like catches wind of that, then I feel like that's when they'll put pressure on. That's like okay, like we don't care, like give it like confusion, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like the audience will make sense of it as they want.
Not to mention too, like Reeves's universe, I think, and I think it even came out. I don't know if it was actually speculation or if it was something that was said by like James Gunn, that the Matt Reeves universe is very focused on a grounded reality, right? You have Batman, he's making his suit, he's making his car. You have kind of a realistic take on the Riddler. He's not wearing a skin tight green suit with question marks on him, like
Yeah,
and even with the Penguin now, like he's not a penguin in the sense that how that when you think of the Penguin from the comic books, he's got the nose
Danny
and the top
DeVito.
hat. Yeah, right. And so you have this grounded reality kind of universe. And I saw a post today on Instagram again. I don't know if it was Gunn or if it was just speculation that in the DCGU, his universe or whatever it's called, that they will kind of go back to the more fantastical comic book world, right? So then you can get that different take on Batman and the Batman villains in the sense of, the more traditional Penguin, the Poison Ivies, the
Yeah,
characters that involve a little bit more
supernatural.
supernatural or just fantastical. I think is a good word for it. So,
Yeah, I think so I like I, I understand Reeves his universe is grounded, but it also is like not at the same time. Like it's like this weird. Have you seen Atlanta, the Donald
mm-mm.
Glover show?
I've
So
heard
it's
it's
like
great. I've not watched it.
yeah, it's so good. It's weird, man. Like it's surrealism pretty much. It's like existing in our world, but it's like things that should never happen or like really like obscure things like happen, and it's like a very surreal thing to like watch and experience. I kind of get not like that feeling, but like a little bit where like Nolan's movies, like those feel like that just exists like in our world. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I can't see this Reeseverse existing in our world. So it's like grounded, but with like just a little bit of like a dash of like fantastical because it's like yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. That's just like my opinion.
Kind of one thing that I can kind of comment on that, just how to explain it. One thing that's cool about the Reeves universe, and you could compare this to the Nolan trilogy. Reeves has made Gotham its own kind of character,
Yes.
right? In the Nolan trilogy, for example, you essentially have in the Dark Knight, you have Chicago,
Yeah.
and then in Batman or in the Dark Knight Rises, that's Pittsburgh. And like they use those skylines, and it looks like Chicago, it looks like
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, versus Gotham in the Matt Reeves universe is just this dark, grimy, like wet, like it's always just like it's
Yeah.
it's it's its own entity.
Yeah, yeah, in like downtown Gotham, like it's always raining there. It's always cloudy. It's always just like, yeah, like you said, dark, wet, just crime everywhere. And then like in the Penguin show, when you see Penguin take Vic out to see his mom, as soon as they get out of the city, it's like really bright.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's what I yeah, you helped me out there. Like yeah, that's definitely what I mean is like there is like fantastical elements at play. They're just not like on the nose type fantastical like, poison ivy controlling plants and stuff, but it's like yeah, Gotham is like this wicked place and rain
Yeah,
and
and like you
clouds
talked
just
about
always stand over it.
when you talk about the monologue to the Batman, Gotham is front and center in that monologue, and you're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh god, this place is hell on earth."
Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, it's just this weird, like, yeah, it is just for some reason it's just like way more wicked than any city should be. Whereas like that wasn't true for like Nolan's Gotham. Like his Gotham was way too livable. Like
Mhm.
that could be like I mean it was literally like pick your big city in America. Like it I mean if there was 10 of those movies, like it might have been Manhattan at some point, it might have been LA. Like
Yeah.
it was very much like existing. So yeah, there's like just like a dash of that fantastical element in Matt Reeves's world, which I really appreciate. But that being said, like I am excited for whatever James Gunn like has
Same.
planned for Batman because it's like yeah, like we've gotten a lot of grounded Batman in the last 15 years. So to see Batman and like Poison Ivy or whatever, I think that would be really cool. But at the same time, if they just like were to like add Superman into Matt Reeves's world, like that would be like such an interesting dynamic to see. Is like, okay, what if we just like for like a minute or a couple minutes in one movie just like introduced another supernatural hero into this world. I don't think they will or they
Mhm.
would, but it would like how crazy would it be if they just like had Superman and it was just like bright, Boy Scout, and it just like totally counters like the Gotham in this world, and like that would feel like a real comic book like universe to me because it's like yeah, Gotham is gross and dark, especially like the Capullo Scott Snyder stuff is just like really dark and gnarly. And then Superman, right? Like just Boy
Yeah.
Scout, farm boy, and just kind of like having that like happy go lucky attitude meet just like the pessimism that is Pattinson's Batman. I think it'd be really cool to see it, but I don't think we'll ever get it.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen either, but yeah, no, I agree. It would be very interesting. Um, with that, the just the thought real quick on the Joker being a potential season. How do you feel? And now I love Barry Keoghan as an actor.
Yeah, he's
How do
great.
you how do you feel about like what they've already shown of the Joker? Like the one thing I think about is like, are they mimicking the Heath Ledger Joker too much with like the appearance and everything? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't think so. Uh, Mainly because I think that they're actually going to go the chemical vat route,
Hmm.
and I think that's what like his disfigurement is going to be.
Okay.
Like, Jared Leto went through that, but he just came out like his skin was white and lips were red, and that was it. It didn't like actually like the chemical like didn't
Burn his face
yeah
and
burn his face, and I kind of think we don't get like a clean focus in on Barry Keoghan's Joker, which maybe they intentionally did that because they still plan on maybe potentially changing his look and stuff. But I that's the sense that I get is like, oh yeah, this dude was like he got thrown into the chemical vat, and I think we're gonna get like a Killing Joke ish like story. But yeah, I really like him. I was watching an interview. He was on like some like this YouTube channel that does like actors watching their old movies, and then they like talk about it a little bit. And so he watched that deleted scene that they ended up releasing, and he said that they actually like they wanted him to wear contacts, and he told him no, like I'd rather it be my own eyes because I want to like convey that like evil like through my
Mhm.
eyes. I don't want it to be like manufactured, or I want people to see like a human underneath like everything that's the Joker, and I thought that was really cool. Um, and then he said he was deciding on a laugh, and he just landed on his own laugh. So he
Huh.
said that that's his laugh, And I was like, whoa, that's creepy.
Yeah, that's some dark demon stuff right there.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, I think he's great. Did you see Banshees of Inisherin?
No, actually, I was actually literally talking to one of my friends who's a huge Colin Farrell fan this weekend, and he was like, "That movie's one of my favorite movies." So now I'm like, "Oh, maybe I should actually check it out."
Yeah, it's really good. He plays a really interesting character in that movie, and yeah, Colin Farrell's in it. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I would be excited to see a Joker show.
Yeah,
Like
especially if like in this universe, as so far as Matt Reeves has given us, like I'm all in.
totally. But if what James Gunn said is true and that show is not happening, that's fine. But if they're like looking, I know that they have like a. Apparently, they can't decide on it, but the rumor is it's either going to be like an Arkham Asylum show or a GCPD show, or maybe like a little bit of both. But I think that's the next one that they have planned. Um, oh, my battery died. We'll wrap this up soon then.
Yeah.
And then if we don't get the Joker show, I would love to see like a Catwoman and Sophia Falcone show.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I do think I know they've talked about it, but like I'm very curious how it would be done in the grounded reality aspect. Is the Mr. Freeze character's been one of the villains rumored? But he's got to definitely, a show you can make a backstory with like how his wife gets in the situation where she's essentially only alive within that um frozen essentially.
Yeah,
So
the
that
cryos.
yeah,
Yeah,
cryo, that's what I was looking for. So you could definitely do something there. But yeah, I think all of it I would be in. As of right now, like Matt Reeves has got my loyalty that if he's making it, I'm in.
for sure. Yeah, especially with the flooding, and then we see at the end of the Penguin show, like snow is on the ground. It is primed for Mr. Freeze or some grounded version of Mr. Freeze. I don't know that he'd have a freeze gun like Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, but
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, let's wrap it up there. Obviously, as your battery just died, but Josh, real quick before we roll out, you've got some big things happening. Tell people where to find you. Tell people what you're jumping into and where they can find that stuff, and we can get out of here.
yeah. So I recently got into dealing. Oh, turn back on. It's probably gonna die ASAP. But yeah, I just got into dealing. So bought a big collection. So I'm gonna be doing live sales here pretty soon. I still have to like price stuff, but I'm currently getting it all into nice, pretty Mylar bags. So yeah, hopefully before Christmas, I'll probably at least try to do one live sale. So that I got a podcast with my father-in-law. It's pretty much the idea is just like a generational gap between us both that are in the same hobby, and so we kind of just bring two different perspectives and places of how we fell in love with the hobby to the podcast and to our conversations. So that's always fun. So yeah, you can find me at Spros Comics. I'm pretty much anywhere. So
Yeah, and I'll have all the links for that. So if people want to check it out, they can look there. But yeah, thanks for coming on. This has been fun chatting with you, and I'm excited to see you because again, I've made friends with a lot of dealers. Like I'm assuming you're kind of be like a lot on like the Instagram claim sales and things of that route you're talking about, right? So like I've befriended a lot of dealers. You'll be the first I know that I get to watch it from beginning to end.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Be interested to hear your praises and critiques as it goes
on. Yeah. All right, Ryan, right on. Well, for those that check this out, thanks for checking us out, and we will see you on the next one.
Yep.